Hello, I'm Jerry Scheidbach. I pastor the Lighthouse Baptist Church in Santa Maria, California. I'm your brain masseur on the Brain Massage podcast and radio show. Hosea 8 verse number 4 says that they have set up kings, but not by me. They have made princes, and I knew it not. Of their silver and their gold have they made them idols, that they may be cut off. You know, I think we're something like 25 days out from probably the most important election, the most important decision American voters have made probably since our founding. And we need to be in much prayer about what's coming upon this nation. If we continue down the path we're on, I fear we're just moving right into the fist of God for judgment. Now, the way I see this thing shaping up, we have a decision before us to either go forward with the Obama agenda, which, as he has announced it, is to fundamentally transform America, and in my view, transform it from America as founded into a hybrid government that is communist, capitalist kind of a mixture, a system that's usually called socialism, and then that under a fascist dictatoress that has really no respect for religious conscience issues, who is committed to the destruction of gender distinctions in our culture and throughout our society, increasing the infanticide that's going on in this country, the ongoing slaughter of babies in the womb, especially black babies, by the way, and female babies. If you're paying attention to this whole abortion thing, it's Margaret Sanger's dream come true. This particular candidate will spread her own corruption. We've got a history of it with her and Bill Clinton. Just infect the entire system of our government and culture with the corruption of the Clintons. Just spread throughout the entire political and social systems, and very likely take us to a place where there's no recovery. I mean, as Bill Clinton sold us out to the Chinese, and I'm not sure how much of the details behind some of these things you're familiar with, and I can't go into all of it in great detail, but Red Dragon Rising would be a good book to read on this. But, with the sellout by Bill Clinton of America and to the Chinese back in his administration, and I'll add to that another round with Hillary and her email scandals and the secrets that were probably sold by her to some of these countries for favors and things like this that's gone on. I mean, you understand, we're at the crossroads where the decision is going to be made to move right on over the cliff, or perhaps to back off of that a little bit. We'll see. But we have no reason to believe that Hillary won't go on being Hillary. She says, Trump, this is the only Trump there is. Well, that's the only Hillary there is. So we really are at a crossroads here. You know, her foreign policy, I think we can expect it to be Benghazi and ISIS all over again and over again and over again. I think she'll undermine freedom and liberty throughout the entire world, compromising the foundation upon which liberties stand throughout. And then, on the other hand, we could throw our dice on a guy who promises to restore our capitalist system, who has there's not much distinction between him and Hillary on the matter of abortion. I mean, he doesn't like abortion, but he's okay with it. He thinks it's a viable option. In the case of a rape or incest, that's disturbing, because that tells me he does not believe in the underpinning, the ground upon which the whole pro-life movement stands, which is the supposition, scientifically and biblically supported, that the baby in the womb is a human being. And so if he believes it's a human being, but would allow that human being to be executed because its father happened to be a rapist or an incestuous relative, you understand what I'm saying? There's just a hair's breadth of difference between them fundamentally, on a fundamental level. I don't think he would promote it like she's promoting it and all that kind of stuff, but still, what a mess those of you who supported Trump have gotten us into. Thank you. Appreciate that very much. Good night. And then on the business of gender distinction, once again, Trump really isn't that far off from Hillary in that matter. I mean, you remember when this whole thing about the bathrooms came out, he made some big, bold public statement about, well, you can come to the Trump Towers and use whatever restroom you want and this sort of thing. So you see, he's not going to do much for us in probably what are the two most fundamental grievances I believe that God has against America right now. That's the murder of the innocent, the baby in the womb, and then this whole promotion of the homosexual subculture and bringing it and making it mainline and accepted generally throughout the culture. It's a perverse lifestyle full of disease and all kinds of misery and heartache and heartbreak, and it's just insane that we're promoting that kind of thing in our culture. And, like I said, we've thrown the dice on this guy because we don't know what he's going to do really. But he says he's going to rebuild our military, and it seems to me that he probably would do that. He's going to build the wall and protect our borders. I think he's going to make some effort to do that. I don't know if he'll be able to get Mexico to pay for it, and I'm not sure. I mean, we don't know. This guy's who knows what he's going to do. He's a negotiator. He's a deal maker. So right now he's laying, his offers on the table, and then it'll all be negotiated. You see, after he becomes president. What I've tried to say to so many times when it comes to Trump, it's really going to depend a lot on what kind of Congress we have. So our attention as conservatives really needs to be on making sure we've got a good, strong conservative element in the Congress, because that's going to be the only protection we're going to have against either of these two. In any event, he does seem to be impervious to liberal influence, so that's probably a good thing. A dear friend and supporter of the Brain Massage Show, especially the podcast outreach of the Brain Massage Show, our ministry there, which I understand they tell me we have about 334,000 people that have at one time or another signed up to get the show. So that's good. Now, we don't know how many of those are active, but it's pretty significant outreach. I have no way of knowing how many we have in our radio audience. We don't use the Arbitron thing. But they tell me it's anywhere from 10 to 15,000 listeners each weekend, and that's nice too. Now, this individual is a very strong supporter of the Brain Massage Show, and of me. I'm his pastor, and we're friends. And yet we disagree. And it's okay. I have a lot of friends that disagree with me on this or that or the other, and they're wrong, and we'll straighten them out eventually. Okay. But anyway, America, he puts it this way. He says, America got on the USS Obama 8 years ago, and he has guided the ship of state to shipwreck on an island alienated from our founding principles. And so his idea is, here we are, marooned, with a bunch of maroons. What's up, Doc? Never mind. On this island, and we are certainly going to starve on this island unless we get rescued. So as he develops the analogy, he says, and we look out from the shore there into the harbor, and we see two ships anchored offshore, both of them inviting us to get on board with the promise that they'll save us from our deserted island. Well, one of these ships is the USS Hillary, and the other one is the USS Trump. And he says the USS Cruise is nowhere to be found. It's out cruising somewhere. So we Americans, all stranded on Obama's promised fantasy island, that turned out to be actually Horror Island, or Island of Terror. You remember that? Probably not. It's a 1966 film. It featured a tentacled silicate creature terrorizing an island community, killing islanders by liquefying and then sucking out their bones from their bodies, leaving their skin piled on the ground like a pile of rags. Some scientist apparently on this island was trying to find a cure for cancer and inadvertently created this monster that's going about terrorizing the island of terror, Horror Island. Obama's fantasy island was a fantasy indeed, and we've awakened to a nightmare. So who can miss the meaning of the metaphor? Mad social scientists in the Obama laboratory on his terror island of transformation have created the monster of Obamatics, that dissolves the bones of their victims, leaving them spineless, sniveling sycophants of the almighty state. And then that monster is threatening to dissolve the resolve of Americans' independence, their sovereignty, and their will, and to leave it among the nations like a pile of empty rags, boneless, spineless, ripe for total destruction. Yeah, I did sort of add that part about the island being Horror Island to my friend's analogy, but I'm sure he's smiling in agreement with that part of all this. Anyway, here we are on Horror Island, and looking out into the harbor we see two ships. One is the USS Hillary, and the other is the USS Trump. And both of them are inviting us to swim out and get on board, and both are promising to deliver us. Well, not quite. In fact, the USS Hillary, or Hilarity, is promising to take us right back to Horror Island. In fact, if you look close, the mother of this horrific creature of Horror Island is actually on board the USS Hilarity. And look, she is the bone-dissolving silicate, multi-tentacled creature that will leave Americans boneless and spineless, and see how she's been doing that for years. Her victims afraid to stand up to her, their bones having been liquefied by bribes and blackmail and threats, and oh my, bribes and blackmail and threats. So all that's left is the USS Trump, right? What are you going to do? That's the analogy my friend uses to illustrate the case that we're in. Well, I see the analogy very, very well. However, I don't think it's as easy as just there are two ships out there. I don't believe God puts us in a position where we only have a choice between, either moving forward in obedience to his revealed will and doing what he's told us to do, or moving forward in disobedience. See, I don't think he puts us in a position where we can't choose to do what's right. And at the bottom line here, I believe it's God that's going to decide this matter, and he will choose between the two evils that will be a judgment upon this nation. And my responsibility is to obey God. And God has outlined for me in the Bible very clearly the criteria that I'm supposed to use in making my choice about who will rule or who will lead. In the Bible, we read that David received from God this revelation, that the man that will rule among men, or that will rule men, must be just, and he must rule in the fear of God. And then in Deuteronomy 17:14-17, God gave us clearly the criteria we're supposed to use to decide who will be appointed to rule over the people. And neither one of these candidates qualify as far as that is concerned. I've looked for Trump to come up with something to clearly identify himself as a man that is God-fearing and a man that would rule justly in the fear of God. Not justly in the humanist way of thinking, but he will rule justly in the fear of God. And I haven't seen that from him. It certainly isn't something I expect to hear or see from Hillary. And so, for that reason, I can't swim out to either one of those ships. I'm going to trust God. All right? I'm going to vote my conscience, which is guided by the Word of God, and obey God and trust that God will, in his mercy and in his grace, take pity and deliver us from Obama's Horror Island.